Hi guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Bailey and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys 7 thrillers that I just think you need to read. If you love thrillers, if that is one of your favorite genres, you need to read these books. So just a quick context about me. I started reading a lot last year around May or so, and I quickly discovered that thrillers are my absolute favorite genre. I love them so much, and I never thought that reading a book would make me feel like scared or on the edge of my seat as much as a movie can, because I love thriller movies. It's definitely my favorite genre of movie. So I'm going to share with you guys 7 recommendations I have, and technically 6 of them are thrillers and then 1 is just like a mystery. I don't think it's necessarily a thriller, but I'm just throwing it in here anyway because I thought it was really good and worth mentioning. I do want to preface by saying that I think the mark of a good thriller book is, 1, this is probably obvious, but it keeps you on the edge of your seat. You want to keep reading. And then 2, it's unpredictable, because I just feel like if it's predictable, obviously there's not even like a mystery to it. It takes away the entire keeps you on the edge of your seat aspect, because you kind of know exactly where the story's going. So with that being said, also these are not in any particular order, but I am going to talk about what I rated each book. So my first recommendation is Lie to Me by J.T. Ellison. This was recommended to me by my friend's mom and I gave it 5 stars. Looking back though, I probably would give it like a 4.5 stars, but still really great nonetheless. It is about a husband and wife who are having a lot of struggles, and they're just like not sure if they still love each other, if they want to be together. And one day the husband wakes up and his wife has left him a note on the counter that says, you know, I left, don't come looking for me. But he waits a little while and then he reports it to the police because he's like, something's wrong with her, and if I don't report it then they're gonna think it's me. And so he reports it to the police, but then everyone still thinks that it's him. And then maybe like 50 or 60% of the way through the book, there's like a complete perspective shift and you get the wife's perspective on what happened to her, and it is just like absolutely crazy. And I loved the perspective shift, and because of what happened, it's like the entire tone and mood of the book changes too, and it was really cool to get that setting. If you read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But there was one aspect of it that was kind of predictable, but even so, there were a lot of twists and turns that I wasn't expecting, and ultimately it was really good and I definitely enjoyed that. And once I got into it, like I could not stop reading. I thought it was so good, and I was shocked quite a few things even with the one predictable aspect. So I would definitely recommend that. And I read most of these books either on my Kindle through the Libby app or Kindle Unlimited, or through Hoopla, listen to them. So if you have Libby, I think I read that one on the Libby app, so definitely check that out. My second book recommendation is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I gave this one 5 stars and I stand with the 5 stars. I think that it was so good and just so captivating and completely shocked me at the end. You get, I think, either 5 or 6 different perspectives, and it's about this couple that's getting married on this island in Ireland. You get different perspectives of like the groom, one of the bridesmaids, the wedding planner, and then one of the groomsmen, and then like maybe a few other people. And it is just crazy. And basically someone is killed, but you don't know who it is until the end of the book, and it's going back and forth between the different perspectives of the people I mentioned. That's kind of like the past, and then it flips forward to the present, and you only get like a little bit of the present, but that's what you want to know, like who did it and what happened. And it's so good and captivating. I think I read it in like 2 days and I just could not put it down. Like if I hadn't had other things to do, then I probably would have kept reading it like all in one sitting. So definitely a good book, and definitely has both of the marks of a good thriller: captivating and unpredictable. Recommendation number 3 is In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. I gave this one 4 stars, but I would probably actually give it if you have Goodreads, you know you can't give it like in between stars, but I'd probably give it like a 4.5 stars or maybe even higher than that, honestly, because looking back, it's just so good. But I remember giving it a 4 stars because I didn't like any of the characters. Like, they were all kind of toxic and didn't really have any good traits about them. This book was so good, and it's kind of similar to The Guest List in that it's a murder mystery. But basically, like 10 years prior, there was this girl in this friend group and she was brutally murdered, and then her murder was never solved. Fast forward to 10 years later, the friends are all going to their college reunion. It's a 10-year college reunion, I believe, and we get the perspective of Jessica Miller, but then the brother of the girl who was murdered 10 years ago, he shows up and kind of like gets everyone in one room and traps everyone, and he's decided that he's gonna solve this murder. So then you get different perspectives of then and now, and it's super good. I was so captivated by this book too, and I was so shocked at the ending. It kind of goes where you think it's gonna go, but then at the very end there's this huge twist, and it's so good. I have recommended this to multiple friends since then, and they've all loved it too. So definitely a good read. Also has both marks of a good thriller. Recommendation number 4 is Rock Paper Scissors by Alice Feeney. This one is really good. I gave this a 4 stars, and I saw this book recommended everywhere. I felt like everyone was reading this book, and it definitely didn't disappoint. This is about a husband and wife who kind of have like a struggling marriage, and this is like their last resort is to go on this special vacation with each other. The wife wins through her work this trip to this like isolated place where it's snowy and beautiful, and so they go, and you get the perspective of now versus something that every year the wife would do on their anniversary is she would write a letter to her husband, and so you get to read the letters in between the present, and then you read a letter and then a present, and then it'll be like second anniversary letter. Meanwhile, all of these weird things start happening to them while they're on this vacation, and it is just wild. Like, it gets so crazy, and the plot twist in this book shook me so hard. I was reading this in the car, and something about me is I cannot read in the car, but the only reason I was doing it is because I had taken a Dramamine. Me and my husband were on a trip to go see one of my friends who lives in Nashville, and I had taken a Dramamine because I was just so enthralled by this book. I did not want to stop reading it, and so the Dramamine actually helped, and I was completely fine reading in the car. And I remember like my jaw just fell open because I was so shocked at the plot twist. So that was just so good. I will always recommend this book to people who like thrillers because of how good the plot twist was, and also it kept me enthralled. So would definitely recommend this book. I think it is such a good read, and definitely a really quick read too. My 5th recommendation is The Silent Patient. I don't know how to say this author's last name, so I'm just gonna have it here. This book is so good. I originally gave it 5 stars, but I would probably lower that to 4 stars now, just like comparing it to the other thrillers that I've read, because this is one of the first ones. Still really amazing nonetheless. This is about a girl named Alicia, and like years ago, I think maybe like 10 years ago or so, she basically had like a perfect life and seemingly perfect, but there's one night that she just randomly shot her husband 5 times, and then she never spoke a word again after that. So basically she's mute now, and she's been in a psych ward for a really long time. And meanwhile, there's this guy named Theo who is a psychiatrist, and he's basically been making his entire career about being able to get to a point where he can work where Alicia is, because he's kind of obsessed with learning what her motive was for shooting her husband, and also like why she isn't talking now. This book is a psychological thriller, so it's kind of different from the previous ones I've mentioned, but it was so good, and definitely like one of those that everything's kind of confusing and you're like, what is his connection? Why does he care about her? Why does she not talk? Like all of these questions, and then at the end everything just falls into place and it just all makes sense, and your brain's just like, oh wow. Also has both of the elements of a good thriller. This one I will say maybe was a little bit slower starting out, but once you get into it, you are definitely hooked. Book recommendation number 6 is probably the most mainstream book out of all of these, which is Verity by Colleen Hoover. I just had to include this because this is the first thriller that I read, and I still think about it all the time. It's so good, and I think that it's being made into a movie, but honestly not sure because I feel like so many of her books have rumors that they're being made into a movie. I know It Ends With Us is for sure, but I feel like there's so many rumors about her other books too that you just never know. But if it was made into a movie, I think it would be so good. This book is about a struggling author named Lowen, and she goes in for this interview with a guy named Jeremy, and basically Jeremy's wife Verity was in a car accident of some sort, and she is basically like in a coma now. They don't know if she's ever gonna wake up. Verity was a very famous author, and she had written a series, but it was unfinished, and so Jeremy is looking to hire someone to finish Verity's series. And so he ends up hiring Lowen. Lowen goes to live at their house where Jeremy lives, and Verity still lives there. She has like a nurse that takes care of her full time, and then Jeremy and Verity's son lives there too. Lowen goes to live there to kind of like get in the mindset of Verity and learn about her and read about Verity's ideas that she had for this book. She ends up finding this manuscript that Verity had written in Verity's office, and it is just like mind-blowing. Like, it is so crazy and captivating, and these weird things start happening to her while she's there, and it is just insane. Like, this is the reason I think this would be such a good movie is because it just has that element of like being on the edge of your seat. Like, you need to know what happens. And I probably read this one the fastest out of all of these books because it was just that good. And the ending is so good too. And if you read the latest version, Colleen Hoover released a new chapter, which I haven't read yet. I honestly need to because I kind of forgot about it, but I think it came out back in the fall. So I think it gives more insight to the ending of what happens. But this one I gave 5 stars, forgot to mention that. I stand by the 5 stars. I would give it 6 stars if I could. Recommendation number 7, and this is also the one that's not necessarily a thriller, it's more of just a mystery, is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This is also more of a mainstream book, but still so good, and if you haven't read it, I wanted to include it because I think it's a really great read. This is YA, and it definitely feels like it more so in the beginning, but I appreciated that because it doesn't have a ton of bad language and there's no like spice in it or anything like that. It's about this girl named Pippa, and she's a senior in high school, and for her senior project she has chosen to basically solve this murder that was already solved like 5 years ago, but she doesn't think that the person who was convicted of the crime is actually the murderer. So basically 5 years ago, this girl Andy Bell went missing and she was presumed to be dead. They never found her body, but her boyfriend Sal was convicted of the crime, and everyone in the town believes that he was the murderer. But a couple days after Andy's murder, Sal committed suicide, and so because of that, everyone's like, he's definitely the murderer. But Pippa doesn't believe that. So she basically spends the summer before her senior year and the entire senior year trying to solve this case and uncover the truth, or what she believes to be the truth. This one I think is a little bit slower in the beginning, but once it picks up, it takes off and really feels like a thriller. It probably took until like 60% for it to like really pick up, and you're like, I need to know what's happening, I need to read this. But I kind of appreciated the fact that like I was still captivated by the murder mystery, yet I didn't feel like I needed to read it every second of every day, because that can kind of like take away from my other work or just like my free time, like spending time with my husband and stuff. And so that was a good aspect of it. I kind of appreciated that. But even so, I was definitely captivated, and I was definitely shocked at the ending. I'm super excited to read the rest in the series. There's, I think, 2 more books in the series, and so I'm currently on the waiting list on the Libby app for those, but hoping to get them soon. So anyway, that's all my recommendations, and you guys have to let me know if you have any thriller recommendations too, because I am always down for that. I'm also super excited because I've heard that Riley Sager is a really good thriller author, and so hopefully I'll be able to read some of his books soon. I will say that I read one recently, the first one that I read by him. It was Final Girls, and that one was definitely a letdown. I gave it 3 stars because it was so predictable. And One of my friends, Jess, she's also on YouTube, and she was like, yeah, that was a snooze fest. And definitely so. Like, I just was bored, honestly. But I'm still looking forward to reading his other books. So please let me know if you have recommendations. But if you guys end up reading these books, also would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Go ahead and subscribe if you aren't already, and I can't wait to see you guys next time. Bye.